Hi, I'm Eleni, and I'm creating this video for someone who asked this question. The point was, I think I treat people in humane ways, this person wrote in, but the work still has to get done. How do I get the work done? So we're going to analyze that pressure, right? It sounded like that person has pressure and urgency to get things done. And we're going to look at it from 2 points of view. The legacy industrial model, the model we use today. And the reason it's called legacy industrial model is because it looks at people as cogs in a wheel, as was done for centuries, especially during the Industrial Revolution. And while this is important, why this is important is because during the Industrial Revolution, we created an education system because people were illiterate at that time and they wanted to educate people to help with growth. During this education system, which we still have today, is based on CJB, criticism, judgment, and blame, and reward and punishment. And that means this mentality was embedded over time through repetition in our subconscious minds. So this is what we all do as a default. We may not do it all the time, but when we're stressed or when we're in environments that are stressful, we will behave this way because we've been socialized to do that. It doesn't mean 100% of us globally, it means most of us. And that's why in organizations, it feels like people are looked at as replaceable cogs in a wheel, get it done or else, etc., etc. So what we want to do is use human-centric leading to transform organizational life so our work is fun, collaborative, innovative, interesting, exciting, instead of caught up in stress just to work with each other well. Okay? So we made a triad. And if you want to look at other videos on triads, thought, feeling, behavior, it's a way to document one's mindset. This triad could be of someone who's thinking, I need to get things done. I need to get people to get things done. People don't care. Okay, so that's a quick assumption that, if I don't see what I want to see from others, it means they don't care. I'm anxious, I feel out of control, and what do? I push for action. I may call people over and over, email them, text them, escalate to their bosses. I think of what's not getting done. I'm getting more and more anxious. And so that's a common triad in the context of someone says, but I already see people as people, but I need to get things done. When we use the word get things done, it means that this person is responsible for what other people are doing. That creates anxiety, and that's a way that we're taught to see things in a hierarchy, but we could see things differently. Okay? So oftentimes the result of this is more stress and anxiety. Sometimes we even get to the point here where we start to micromanage or we start to escalate and exclude people, and things get confusing, not because we're bad people, but we're thinking this way and we're not sure as to what else to do. So if we use human-centric leading in the same context where I see people as people, but I need to get things done, we can go over here and we can start thinking differently. How can we all get on the same page? So that talks about alignment, clarity, timing. How can we all feel the urgency of getting things done? Here, it seems like one person has urgency, the others don't, right? And that happens sometimes. So let's pretend I'm in a sales group and I talk to people in the finance group. They don't answer. I could say they couldn't care less about me. What it could be is that they have completely different priorities. So it looks like they couldn't care less, but they're doing the priorities they're required to do and they're asked to do. So this takes us, even if we're not the CEO and we can't control everyone's priorities, we could talk to people and we can agree, because in most cases in organizations, everybody knows who needs what to get things done. We know those things. So we know we need cross-functional support to work with others, to get information, to get things done, even if it's a sale. So let's say I'm a salesperson, I can sell something, but I need the legal department, the finance department, the delivery department, right? I can't just sell and then things will miraculously get done. So we all depend on each other in organizations. So this assumes that. So this assumes that, okay, I am not going to be a micromanager and just chase people, or I'm not going to get things done because I'm not like a hierarchical person who wants to have that position, or I don't want to have to chase people to do their work. So I can start to ask questions and collaborate with people to see how can we align our priorities to get this job done. How could we all get things done knowing we have different priorities? How could we have the same urgency? Like, do we have to get approvals from somebody else? Do we have to get our priorities aligned? Like, what could we do to do that? So these are the thoughts. Notice how different the thoughts are, right? So the different thoughts create different emotions. Like, ooh, I feel calmer. I'm not alone. I don't have to chase everyone to do their work. We're discussing it together and we're finding solutions. And I'm focused on the work more than getting people to do something. I'm focused more on creating a system that we could use in order to respond to these challenges when, let's say, a salesperson has a higher priority than someone else in the company, and we have conflict. So we start to align ourselves around either similar goals or timing. We also remove contextual blocks. So this is one of the most important pieces of HCL, human-centric leading, is thinking about the context and thinking that the context actually affects the way people behave. So for example, if I'm in a sales group, the context of mine is my metrics, the fact that I have relationships with clients who talk to me and ask me for things. That's my context as a salesperson. And then someone in finance has none of that context. They have internal contexts that look different. Their priorities are different. What they need to do to ensure the proper financial balance of the company is completely different. So if we start then considering context instead of blaming, if you notice, this is a little bit feeling like somebody ought to be blamed. Someone is blocking the flow of the work, and they should be either corrected or challenged or removed or blamed or something like that. This considers context, saying, I'm assuming that everybody who says they're going to contribute to the project wants to, but they have contextual blocks. So what I do is I help people remove contextual blocks. For example, if we all get on the same page and we get aligned in terms of goals and timing, that's affecting their context, right? So we may have to talk to each other's bosses. We may have to negotiate something that we then will say, okay, we can use this for this project and maybe for other projects as well. So the human-centric leading sees a human as whole, like with emotions, with stresses, with wishes, with priorities, with demands, etc. And not only as a machine which needs to focus to get things done regardless of the context. We've learned through history, through research, psychologists have been studying this for 50 years, and realizing that context affects us. And we know this intuitively, right? If we go into a room where everyone is upset or angry, we can feel that. We don't have to even look at their faces. We can enter a room this way without seeing anything and can feel it. The same goes with a happy room. So that means where we are affects how we behave. So people here may commit, even here may commit to something. Yes, I'll do this by Friday, and it's Friday afternoon and it's not done. And they didn't even send an email saying it's not going to be done. It's not that they are the block. It's like the context is. And so when we start to remove CJB, criticism, judgment, and blame, by assuming the best of people, we start to focus on the context. We're like, okay, if they wanted to do their best and they didn't, what could be wrong? And we start to think. Alignment, timing, pressures, illness, whatever. We start to think of what could prevent them from doing what they committed to do. And then we start looking at those blocks. And then over time, we can see, patterns. It's usually a pattern of misalignment of metrics. One sales group has a different metric set than maybe the IT people or finance people. It's also timing, priorities come, we all have projects where like, okay, we have to suddenly do this by Friday when we just, it's Thursday afternoon. So priorities change. So this is really a major mindset shift, where here it's saying, it's making the assumption that everybody exists to do what they said they would do. And if they don't do it, they need to be corrected or replaced. Here it's saying, everybody is committed to do what they are committed to do, yet we look at the context to see if it supports them or not. And if it doesn't, we change the context without blaming, criticizing, or judging anyone. We can change the context. Now, I can already hear some people saying, oh my God, that takes too long. Well, think of how long it takes to chase people to do the work that they said they would do and they're not. And then we send them more emails and they don't respond and we get more angry. Then we send them a text and they don't respond. And then we send them a message. Like we try every avenue and we get nothing and we kind of get more and more and more anxious. Then we may start to escalate and complain and at the water cooler criticize or gossip. Like things are they escalate that way. That takes enormous amount of time and energy. That takes emotional energy that can be pooled into assessing the context. And this way of viewing things also has sustainability. So if I always assume the best of people, like they want to do what they say they're going to do, then I can always have an effect on the context. You know, I can always make a suggestion or talk with them and say, okay, I noticed you hadn't responded to 3 of my emails. What's up with you? How are you? Like, how are you? Maybe something bad happened to them in a personal level. Maybe their bosses are saying no longer support this project. All kinds of things happen. So if we reach out to each other as people, not titles, not positions, not roles, but people, we get to this a lot easier. And then we start to create a context where people feel good with each other. They trust each other. So they say, hey, heads up, I just noticed a project coming down in my world. I won't be able to support yours. What do we do? Because I know the finance group has to support your project. So what do? We can start then even being proactive as to how to deal with challenges within the organization so that we spend more time, competing with other companies instead of competing with each other internally. So these 2 viewpoints show us different ways of dealing with the same thing. We're the same people, we have the same challenges, but the different mindset and different triads help us access different solutions. This one leads us to micromanaging and getting more frustrated. This one leads us to figuring out how we can alter the context to then maybe create something sustainable that we could use for this project, this initiative, and the next. So, this is like the overall view of these two mindsets, and this is the one that's prevalent in organizations today. The more we use this one, the more easy our own experiences can be, because look at how the emotions are, so the experience is a lot easier. And also, we can affect changes on a collegial way where we all feel better and get things done.